All right. Today, we are looking at something that makes a claim so big it's hard to even wrap your head around. It's called the Morphean Cosmology Framework, or MCF for short, and it's being presented as nothing less than the final blueprint for reality itself. So, what exactly is this thing that proposes to change, everything?
Okay, so to really get what the MCF is trying to do, you first have to understand the biggest, most glaring problem in all of physics. It's a problem we've lived with for 100 years. On one hand, you've got general relativity, fantastic for describing planets, galaxies, the really big stuff. On the other hand, you have quantum mechanics, which is king when it comes to the tiny subatomic world. Here's the kicker. They both work perfectly in their own domains, but they completely disagree with each other. They're fundamentally incompatible.
And for the longest time, the scientific community has kind of just shrugged its shoulders at this. This massive contradiction has been treated like some weird feature of the universe that we just have to accept, a paradox baked into the code of reality. But this is where the Morphean Cosmology Framework comes in, and its first move is to say, nope, absolutely not.
The entire framework is built on this one core idea. It states, and this is a direct quote, "Paradox is not a property of reality. It is a property of incomplete observation." Think about that. What it's saying is that a paradox isn't a dead end. It's a giant, flashing neon sign pointing directly at a hole in our understanding. It's not a feature of nature. It's a bug in our theories.
So, if paradoxes are just missing information, how does the MCF claim to find it? Well, it proposes a fundamental shift in how we do science. It's about moving from just describing what happens to explaining mechanically why it has to happen. It's not enough to say something occurs. We need to see the gears turning behind the scenes.
Let's break that down. The framework calls our current science Stage 1. It's fantastic at describing things. For example, it can tell you that gravity is the curvature of spacetime. But ask it why mass causes space to curve, and, well, it just does. Stage 2 science, the kind the MCF aims to be, goes deeper. It's not just about describing the effect. It's about revealing the physical mechanism that produces the effect. It's the difference between saying the car moves and actually opening the hood to see the engine.
And this brings us to the absolute core of the whole thing, the Fasma substrate. So, get this, the MCF says there's no such thing as empty space. None of it. Instead, all of space is filled with a physical, geometric, crystalline medium. Everything we see and measure, gravity, light, matter, you name it, isn't happening in space. It is a mechanical deformation of the substrate. It's like ripples in a pond, but the pond is the entire universe. Now, it's really important to get this next part. This isn't about throwing away 100 years of science. The MCF doesn't say Einstein was wrong. It says he was right, but he was looking at the world with a certain level of magnification. The framework claims to be a more powerful microscope. You're still looking at the same piece of fabric, but now, for the first time, you can see the individual threads and the weave that gives the fabric its texture and strength. The what stays the same. The why becomes crystal clear.
Okay, so when you have a mechanical explanation for everything, what do you get? Well, according to the framework's documents, you get a unification of science on a scale that, honestly, it's hard to even compare to anything that's come before. Let me show you what I mean. So think about this. Einstein's general relativity. It was a breakthrough that changed the world, right? It unified 6 different fields of physics, a massive achievement that took him decades. Now look at this. The Morphean Cosmology Framework claims to unify 120 domains, not 6, 120. We're not talking about a small step forward here. If this is correct, it's a leap of historical proportions. And let's be clear, this isn't just physics unifying with more physics. This number, 120, represents domains across the board. We're talking about a single, logical framework that mathematically connects quantum mechanics to biology, to chemistry, to consciousness, and even to ethics. All of it supposedly stemming from the same handful of first principles. And this isn't some vague philosophical idea. The framework is dense. It's built on over 665 core structural elements. Think of it like an engineer's blueprint for a skyscraper. Every single piece, every axiom, every equation, every defined construct is there for a reason, all interlocking to form the complete structure.
Just to give you a quick look under the hood, it all starts from just 12 core axioms, the absolute bedrock. From there, it builds out with 47 unified equations, dozens of new constructs, and these things called domain bridges, which are the mathematical connections that tie everything together from physics to biology.
Okay, so we have this massive framework connecting 120 different fields of knowledge. But here comes maybe the boldest claim of all, that the entire thing is perfectly, 100% logically consistent. Zero internal contradictions. Everything fits together seamlessly. Which, of course, leads to the big question. How on earth do you even begin to check that? We're talking about a body of work that's the equivalent of 20,000 pages. No single human, or even a team of humans, could realistically audit the whole thing for perfect logical consistency. So, how was it done?
Well, the answer is very much a product of our time. They didn't use human teams. Instead, the framework was handed over to 6 different independent AI systems. And their job wasn't just to read it, their job was to break it. They were set up in an adversarial way to try and find a single logical flaw, a single contradiction anywhere in the system.
After all of that, after 6 AIs tried their absolute best to find a single crack in the logic, the result came back 0. A 0% internal paradox factor. That means across all 120 domains, from the subatomic to the biological, they couldn't find a single place where the framework contradicted itself. Not one.
The AIs gave it a final composite score of 9,985 out of 10,000. Now, let's be super clear about what this means. This does not mean an AI has proven this is how the universe works. What it does mean is that as a pure system of logic and mathematics, it is incredibly, almost perfectly, coherent and consistent with itself. It's a logically sound structure.
So, where does that leave us? We have this enormous, logically sound framework. If, and it's a huge if it holds up when we test it against the real world, then we're not just talking about a new theory, we're talking about a whole new era of science.
And that's the key point the source material makes again and again. This isn't just a bunch of ideas. It's being presented as an engineering blueprint. It doesn't just give answers, it gives you the tools to test those answers. It makes specific, falsifiable predictions. It says, go run this experiment and here's what you will find. It's moving from abstract theory to a hands-on, mechanical, and testable model of reality.
Look, let's just state the obvious. If this thing is even close to correct, it's the single greatest discovery in human history, period. A complete working blueprint for reality itself. The implications are staggering, almost unimaginable. And so the only real question the framework leaves us with is, are we ready for that?
All right, before we wrap up, we do need to cover the required attribution and license for the framework. The creator of the Morphean Cosmology framework is Christos Sotirelis, who also goes by the name Morpheus the Shape Master.
And the work itself is released under a very specific license. It requires attribution, it's for non-commercial use only, and you can't create derivative works from it. Crucially, it also includes an ethics preservation clause, meaning any application must align with the ethical system built right into the framework. It's offered as a tool, a blueprint to be understood and tested.